Good morning, this is Mr. Heat with Cub Scout Pack 110 in Cold Bush, Mishawaka, and what we're going to be working on today is a further investigation of knots and how to tie them. It's a book that, as you well know by now, I really love. What we're going to be working on today is not necessarily knots, but hitches. And the difference between a knot and a hitch, if we were to be very broad about it, a knot is when we take a rope and tie it around itself, or tie a rope around another rope. A hitch is when we take a rope and tie it around something else. So the difference between knots and hitches, like I say, very broad. Going to be working on a number of things. We're going to be working on the half hitch, two half hitches. We're going to be working on the clove hitch, and then the taut line hitch. And one of the reasons that I focus on these is that of all of the knots in our knot book and all the hitches in our knot book, these are perhaps the most useful and the most widely known. One of my favorite things to do is go back and look at other Scout handbooks. This is, I think, the Scout handbook from 1940. And if we take a look at this, for those of you Cubs that are looking at being Boy Scouts later on, if we can take a look at the requirements for knots to know in 1940s, which is beautiful. We'll get you know useful knots, useful hitches, and look at all these gorgeous illustrations, beautiful knots. We're not going to go through all of these guys, but we will go through the hitches that further develop into most of these. So we'll be working on, in order, the half hitch. So those of you might recognize a nice little junk knot board. This is all, once again, remember, a Scout is thrifty, so these are all repurposed materials. We're going to be working on a half hitch, two half hitches, the clove hitch, and then the taut line hitch in sequence. So I'm going to do all of those in one video, so you should have the opportunity to just pause the video or rewind it and go back to the hitch that you need to recover. So first and foremost, let's go with the half hitch. A half hitch, we're going to come underneath. Once again, you might recognize the beautiful rope that was donated to us by Tractor Supply Company. We're going to go underneath our pole. Now, I always like to go around my rope in one direction. Now, I'm going to start using some rope terms here. This is going to be the end. This is going to be the standing part. Okay. As I go ahead and bend it, if I haven't crossed over yet, once I cross over it will become a loop. Otherwise, when we just have a bend like this is called a bite. So we're going to take our end, or our running end. We're going to go around our standing part and then through that loop that we created. That's it. If I now pull on this rope, what's going to happen is I pull on this guy, and he's going to tighten and cinch down onto my running end. So if I pull nice and snug on my half hitch, you can see he is very stable. Now I've got a little bit of slack in my rope. Because I have my knot board, I have all these guys through with some figure 8 knots on the back, so I can just pull them tight and pull them to the side. So, very easy half hitch. So, half hitch, two half hitches should be fairly elementary, right? We're going to do that twice. We're going to come on under. Now, running end, standing part, okay? We're going to come around our standing part and through the loop. We're going to do the exact same thing again. We're going to come around our standing part and through our loop. Pull that nice and snug. That is two half hitches. Now, what I'd like you to do is take a look at this kind of, when we look at our two half hitches, we have this kind of nice Z shape in the rope, or backwards Z. We go one diagonal and then back. That's going to be important for us to take a look at again. When I have this two half hitch, if I pull tightly on this, what it'll do is cinch down onto my pole or my pipe or my tree or whatever I've actually tied against. So if I pull nice and snug, you'll see he will cinch down, be nice and fixed. So once again, I'm just going to pull on the back end of my rope, get that nice and stable and tight. Ding, ding. Not really, it's actually looser than that. So half hitch, two half hitches. Now let's take a look at the clove hitch. The hitches that we're going to tie today, the clove hitch is the only one where I'm going to go over the bar, because I want you to see what the knot looks like. If I go under the bar, the knot's going to be buried down in there, and I'd have to reposition the camera, and it took me too long to set this up. Just kidding, it's actually just harder to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over our bar, Get this little scrap piece of paper out of our way. We're going to go over our bar and back under. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up on the right hand side. I'm going to cross over that rope. I'll come under now on the left hand side of my standing part. And see how I have this big loop here? I'm just going to pull that under. Now just like on the half hitch, when I pull tightly on that rope, he's cinched down on himself. When I pull tightly on both of these ends of the rope, you can see that I tighten this loop and it cinches down both on the standing part and on the running end. So, clove hitch. Why is this a clove hitch? Think about a cloven hoof. What do you have? You have two parts like that, right? On a deer hoof. So what we can take a look at is we actually have these two little cloven ropes going on either side. Clove hitch. Now is that why it got its name? I don't know, but it'll help you remember it. Once again, I'd like you to take a look at what we have here. If you'll notice on our two half hitches, what I said is that we had a Z shape. Like it's hard, I've cinched this down, it's hard to turn right now. But you can see here we also have this Z shape. And that's the little secret between the two half hitches and the clove hitch. They're the exact same hitch. Now what we have on two half hitches is we did this configuration around the rope. You didn't notice, but we did. The two half hitches we did around the rope. The clove hitch, we did that configuration around a pipe or a bar or a branch or a tree or a limb. So just to prove that, what I'll do is we'll take an extra piece of rope, right? Now if I were to do my two half hitches, I'm going to go around my standing part. So here's my end. I'm going to go around my standing part and through the loop. I'm going to go once again around my standing part and through the loop. Now I've just made two half hitches. Now if you take a look at this side of it, you can see that kind of indicative Z shape. So that's when I tied it from this angle. I'm going to go ahead and turn this, and right now let's imagine that this is no longer my rope. We're going to say this is the bar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over my bar. I'm going to come up on one side. I'm going to cross over. I'm going to come up on I'm going to give myself a little bit more room is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cross over my rope, come under on the other side, and then through my loop. And what you'll see is I have the same two half hitches. They're just facing a different way. It's the same hitch, just with a different configuration. So, half hitch, two half hitches, clove hitch. Now we're going to work on the taut line hitch. Now the taut line hitch is a hitch similar to what we did with the two half hitches, just with one additional loop that will give us the opportunity to adjust how much slack we have in here to keep our line taut, the taut line hitch. Fantastic for setting up a tent. If you want your rain fly to be nice and snug and taut, you can tie a taut line hinge onto a pole and continue to adjust the tension. So taut line hitch, we're going to go underneath our pole. And this is all going to start to be familiar. It's why we've worked with these in progression. We're going to go ahead and come around our standing part, take our running end and go through the loop. And here's where we're going to make one small adjustment. We're going to go around our standing part one additional turn. Let me see if I can't move this so you can see my rope a little bit easier. I'm going to come around the standing part and through my loop. And this is when I'm going to take one more additional turn around the standing part. So I've just kind of gone around it twice. Now I'm just going to do one more of my half hitches, which we already know. I'm going to come around the standing part. I'm going to come through my loop. and that is our taut line hitch. So it's just like our 2 half hitches, but we did one additional loop on our first half hitch. Now the benefit of this, when we pulled on our 2 half hitches, that guy shot down there and he cinched around our pole. When we have a properly tightened taut line hitch, when we pull on this, it will, when it carries a load, it will stay stable. And when we release it, we can adjust it. And when we put a load on it again, it will stay stable. We can even go back the other way. Release tension. We pull this knot loose. When we pull and put a weight on that knot, it will stay stable. So the taut line hitch is fantastic for, like I say, rain flies. I use this whenever we put up our hammock, because every time somebody else gets in the hammock, you have to adjust the tension. And I can keep my hammock anchored where I want it to be and just adjust the length of my standing part. So we pull all of these guys nice and snug from the back. Once again, I have all these ropes on the back with some figure-8 knots. Pull these nice and tight. And we have half hitch, 2 half hitches, a clove hitch, and the taut line hitch. So feel free to take a look, review any of those. Once again, they're in the Knots and How to Tie Them book, available to pick up at any of your scout shops. Fantastic. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thank you.